and welcome to another episode of Senior Spot. My name is Jenn Quinn, and I'm glad to be your host today to introduce you to Kathi Crowley, who is the Director of Community Relations at RiverCourt Residences in Groton, Mass. So here we are in Westford. Groton's the next town over, and I'm thrilled to be able to have her tell you a little bit about the incredible resources and the facility over in Groton. So welcome, Kathi.
Thank you for having me.
Excellent. So, Director of Community Outreach, what does that mean? What is your role?
Simply stated, I get to be the one to go into the community and tell everybody how wonderful RiverCourt is.
Okay.
We're tucked away a little bit in Groton, so not everybody drives by us, but I like to have the opportunity to go to different councils on aging, community service organizations, nursing homes, hospitals, and just let everybody know about how wonderful our building is.
It is wonderful. I mean, I've joked with you before that, I would like to put the down payment now, if that's allowed, because it is in an absolutely beautiful setting. The building is gorgeous. Tell us about the building and why it's so unique.
Okay. We've been RiverCourt Residences now for about 15 years, so we're going to celebrate our anniversary. Prior to that, it was an abandoned mill for quite some time. So it was a leatherboarding mill, and has a lot of history. We actually even have people that visit and live there that remember working there or visiting someone or bringing lunch to a husband in the building. So a lot of history, and the owners came in and purchased and did a lot of renovations, but now we're independent living, assisted living, and memory care.
Excellent, and it's right there, and obviously the mill being right on the water, just
on
the
water.
Sounds of it, it's just so relaxing and
soothing,
lovely.
Right?
It is. On a day like today, I'm not sure I'd want to be around all of the blustery winds. But so you mentioned that you have independent living, you have assisted living, and I know you also have memory care. So tell us a little bit about, a lot of buildings don't have independent living.
Correct.
I think that's something that's unique, and people might not even know what the term means and why it's different. So could you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Independent living. It's a full-size apartment. Some are 1.5 bedrooms, some are 1.5 baths, but still some supportive services. So you still get some of your meals, some housekeeping. The big advantage to independent living a lot of times is you're giving up the burden of a home, but you're not necessarily giving up your independence. People have their cars still, they come and go as they please. They have their privacy because we have a lot of couples, but there are some services to help you feel connected to the community, but help families feel like there's eyes on mom and dad, but yet they still get to be themselves, go in the community, enjoy the services that are in our community, but still come and go and stay connected to Groton or whatever town they're from. Sure. So most of the time, people who are independent or live in independent living require minimal services, but yet they get the comfort of RiverCourt in case things change or become more complex down the road. We can either talk about assisted living services or put a little more help into the apartment, and that's kind of a lot of times where something like comfort care comes in too.
Right. Well, and I think it's great to have those different levels right on the same campus. People get used to things. It's their home, and they're comfortable there, and
their
be able
friendships.
To have this, their friendships. That's true as well. And sometimes, when you're in your individual home, you're feeling more isolated, and you may not have that opportunity to have those close friendships. It's kind of like college living. I know sometimes I've walked in and said, wow, this is like a really nice college.
But still privacy. You have that communal feel where there's people to go to when you do need help, or people to have cribbage with down the hallway, but yet you still have your privacy. So it's a nice transition for people who are ready to leave a home, or a family that thinks mom might be needing a little more care. So it's a nice way to kind of tap your toe into that communal living or that feeling of a community. But a lot of times people who are independent, that's usually the ones that are just happy to give up the home. Enough of the shoveling, enough of all that maintenance, but still they have space, and they bring so much from home because the apartments are just huge.
Right. Well, and just having other, whether it be on the property or whether it being part of RiverCourt itself, having other services in place too makes a big difference. And you mentioned multiple times couples, which I really like to hear that, because you don't necessarily have that as you're moving through the continuum of care. You don't always have that. We have a lot of widows, widowers, but it sounds like you do have a good amount of couples that are on site. And,
yeah, we do. And people are living longer. So I think as an industry, we're seeing more couples because people 10 years ago, it was very rare that you saw a couple that was making
Right.
the transition to assisted living. Now that we're living longer and there's so many services in place to keep people together longer, it's nice to have that bigger apartment, because really, when you have two people, there's 2 times the stuff.
Right.
So
But then you have the rest of the facility if you really want to have your own space.
most
'Cause that's
definitely.
needed too as a
Yep.
couple.
Most
Without a
definitely.
doubt. So you mentioned that, obviously you could move into a different level of care. So what would be the big difference between independent and assisted? Just the level of maybe hands-on care or things that someone would need?
Exactly. I think one of the biggest things to talk about is that we do 2-hour checks in assisted living.
Okay, so what does that mean?
It means that every 2 hours someone's laying eyes on you.
Every 2 hours.
And
Wow.
recording it.
Okay.
So there are people that don't want that, and that as long as a doctor says that's okay, we say that's
Sure.
okay. But it's for a daughter, a family member, especially someone who has a distant relationship. It's so nice to know that mom's not on the floor for quite some time before someone knows it.
Right.
So in the middle of the night, if someone's sleeping, we're certainly not going to wake you up. We're going to tiptoe in and just make sure that you're okay. And so often it's something very simple that we've caught before something big happens.
Right.
But I think it's a peace of mind for the resident, but also for the family member to know.
Well, and I see the way that things flow there. So I like to see it's not that someone's checking in with a checkboard and making or a checklist and making sure. It's very casual. It's
And
very
home-like.
just a part of
Yeah.
It's just a part of. Hey, how are you doing? It's not formal, but it's noted, and that's what people want. They want it to be natural.
Yeah, and that's where I think the meals coming to our restaurant style dining, yes, you're coming for a social activity and you're having a wonderful meal, but someone's also seeing you. So it's a little eyes on kind of thing too.
Right.
We're not, like you say, it doesn't seem military with a clipboard, but casually as we're pouring your glass of wine or
Right.
offering a different dessert, someone's noticing you.
Right.
And a lot of the department heads will go in the morning and pour coffee and just to say hi to everyone, and it's a nice kind of introduction to the day, and someone's taking a peek. You know what, Mr. So-and-so seems a little off this morning, but we also make sure that you make it to every meal, so that if we have a seat for Jane and it's 10 after 9 and Jane's not down yet, we're going to get Jane because she's independent and we know she always comes by 9. It's a nice kind of check-in,
Right.
informal check
Yeah, and
to
maybe
make sure.
she's not feeling well, and it's
Exactly.
good to know that.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. So then, obviously the other level of care that you have there is, a dementia-specific, area, and it's secured, but, so that's kind of the opposite end of the spectrum, but that's their home. And tell us about some of the unique features of your dementia,
Well, we call
portion
it
of it.
Reflections.
Okay.
So it's our memory care unit. So there's a few different reasons that people have dementia, whether it's vascular or alcohol related or Alzheimer's. Sometimes how you take care of them take care of those residents doesn't differ too much. It's all about a lot about safety, a lot
Sure.
of engagement,
how you
dignity,
communicate
training,
Right.
environmental design is very important. So. The big thing to me, a dementia community that really is serving its residents well, is about engagement and about activity. So I think we get you up and we get you going and you have a great breakfast and you're part of breakfast and you help serve and you help set tables, and then we keep you busy all day long.
So you have purpose. You have
Exactly,
you have purpose.
thoughtfulness. And just because someone has dementia doesn't mean that they still can't participate
Oh,
or
absolutely.
learn or engage or
Right.
bring ideas to the table. So our community's thought is that if we keep you engaged and keep you excited about different things, maybe a little shorter attention span, a little shorter activity, come 8 o'clock at night, you're tired and you get a good night's sleep.
Right.
So
And
we
everybody
try
needs
to
a good night's sleep.
Yeah, great cycle of a lot of times people that come from home might have a little reverse body clock issue where they're up a little bit at night, so the caregiver lets them sleep because the caregiver's
Just
tired.
needs their sleep as
Yeah,
well.
so you get this way we kind of break that cycle a little bit, and there's nothing going on at 10 o'clock at night, so you might as well sleep and have a great night's sleep.
Right.
There's staff clearly and someone that would engage you and redirect you back, but be part of that bigger community and stay awake and stay engaged during the day.
Help keep things just be consistent and have a routine. and
Routine is everything. You
It
hit
really
the nail on the head.
is. I mean, for everybody all throughout life.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that RiverCourt Residences has been open for 15 years. So,
Correct.
a lot of the models of assisted living, independent living, or just, continuum of care are models where, you have a major company opening and having multiple sites. So tell me why and how RiverCourt is unique in the way that it's managed and owned.
We are locally owned and locally operated. It's 2 gentlemen who are the owners and quite involved. but we're the only assisted living facility that they own. So we're not part of a large franchise. We don't have a large corporate reporting structure. And just today, before I came here, one of the owners was in the building sitting at the table with the chief of police and the director for the Council on Aging locally. So they like to get a good pulse on what's happening, but there's not a cookie cutter approach to things. We're very unique that it is a mill building, but to that area, it fits in the footprint of the Groton, Pepperell, Littleton area.
Well,
it looks like it fits right in.
It fits.
Not a building just kind of plunked in there.
It does, and I mean, wonderful to have that rejuvenated mill. And people there aren't. I mean, are there any others in Groton?
We're the only one.
No, you're the only one.
Yeah,
So
we're the only one.
people love to reside potentially in the town that they've lived in for a very long time.
Very true. And most of our tours, when we're walking families around, and I was saying recently, there's a few towns locally that people move from, but very often, because the names are on doors, you'll see I went to school with her, or our daughters are friends, or it's nice to know that you have some familiarity before you even move in the building.
Yeah. And I'm sure I've known stories from other places where all of a sudden you realize that you were friends 50, 60, 70 years before that, which is really exciting.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's part of the uniqueness and why I love living in this area, because
it's a new
we
chapter.
don't go that far.
It's a new chapter of that friendship too. It's
That's right.
They're still friends, just friends in a kind of different way.
Yes.
But it's nice. Often we get visitors of someone who lives there, who turns into a resident who lives there. So a lot of times,
Well, that
someone's
says a
coming,
lot.
Yeah,
That says
someone's
a lot
coming to
right
have lunch
there.
with their friend from Harvard, and they end up getting to know us quite well. They've been a few times. That turns into a resident. So it's nice that people have a comfort level with us even before they start their search.
Right. Oh, that's great. And you said words like trusted and proven, and the relationships that you have, and certainly you have a lot of activities and programs that go on no matter what level of care. So can you share just some of the maybe recent activities or programs that are unique to your building? And
Well, we don't stay in the building a lot, so we
Okay,
are in
so
the
field
community.
trips.
Yeah,
I like
community
field trips.
quite a bit. We have a van that those trips are generally part of your your cost to live there. So if we do lunches or outings, it's on RiverCourt, but we stay connected to the local service organization. So there's veteran breakfasts at the Council on Aging, and a lot of our gentlemen will go to that. They do great programs at the police station, the fire station. So we try to stay part of the community that way. But there's between restaurants and movies, and sometimes it's simple passive trips where we're looking at Christmas decorations or
yes.
the scenery in a fall drive. But just get out of the building and go and have fun and get some fresh air. So we do that sort of stuff. We do a lot of crafts within the building. We do a lot of educational programs, a lot of historical lectures. We're big on kids and pets. So we have, with the Groton School right there and Lawrence Academy and the Country Day School, we get a lot of intergenerational programming happening. But the key to, I think, successful programming is listening to your residents. So at resident council, and just informally, or when someone's admitted or someone moves in, we ask them, what do you like to do? What would you potentially do? What haven't you done because you haven't got there in a while?
Right, and maybe it's a brand new idea that you haven't thought of.
Yeah, exactly. Or I like cribbage, but I didn't have anybody to play with, and then someone else moves in and they liked cribbage, so we can make friends kind of easily that way.
Oh, I like that. And you said the resident council, or the
Most
residence
definitely.
council. So you have that.
We have a great attendance at that generally, and all the department heads sit with them. So
Okay.
it's not just taking notes and then bringing up an idea about a new food product or a new activity. We talk about it right on the spot with the residents and try to, a lot of times there are ideas that the department heads act on, and then we put the system in place and everybody kind of says, well, I don't know if I want to. You just said you wanted painting classes. Now come on, we made it happen. So we'll ask somebody, usually it's a matter of come on with me, not do you want to. It's come on with me, let's give it a try.
Give it a go.
We recently had someone come and do knitting classes, and a lot of people couldn't knit for a little while unless they had someone assist them on it. So now they can pick up a activity they used to do and have a comfort level with it, or try something they'd never tried before.
Absolutely, it's never too late to try those
Agreed.
different things. So since you've been on board, what are some of the success stories, like any move-in success stories? Because I know that a big part of it is you're out in the community and telling people all about the wonderful things that you have at RiverCourt. What have been some of the things that you've seen? Obviously not names or things like that, but what share some of those, because that's what people love to hear. Stories.
We do a lot of short-term stays. Well, they start off as short-term stays,
and
or
I'm
respite.
Respite. That's because that's a term that's a buzzword right now. So you do respite stays as well.
With the same goal, I think that you probably have is that trying to make sure that the caregiving team is safe, and that we look at all the options for someone. But we do those short-term stays, and we do them generally for a month. And a lot of times it's let's give it a shot. Let's see what we think. And in 1 week or 2 weeks, you might not necessarily know if we're the fit for you or not. Right. But if you stick around for a month, generally we find that you fit right in. The words that we hear so often is, "I should have done this a long time ago." And
Who said that though?
Resident.
The family, the resident? Okay, good. When it's everyone.
Jen, I believe wholeheartedly the resident's going to be great. I worry about the daughters and the family with the transition. I know Emma is going to have a great time, and I know she's going to make friends right away, and she's going to feel better, she's going to feel supported, and she's not as nervous or anxious. It's the daughter that usually is my concern, and that's where we focus. The line staff, the nurses, and the people in the kitchen focus on Emma. A lot of us focus on the daughter, just to make sure that that transition is just as smooth for the daughter as it is for the resident.
No, because it's a big move for everybody that's involved. Yeah. Absolutely. And you were just mentioning too that new friendships and things can be rekindled, and people that weren't couples become couples.
That happens. Well, when we were talking about people living longer, usually, like you said, there were like a lot of little ladies kind of tootling around these little assisted livings, and 1 or 2 men. Now we like much more robust men to women ratio, so there tends to be a little dating or a little more fun at dance time. Ladies getting all set for dinner.
Good.
I like to see that too.
That is nice.
And a lot of couples that find other couples in the building too. They were a little isolated at home. Maybe one of the couples was a little compromised. One part of the couple was a little compromised, and the wife was maybe the caregiver and afraid to leave him at home. So she was isolated from her friends and social activities. So couples with couples and activities is a nice exchange also.
Oh, that's great, because I think that, for a long time it just seemed like it was, like you said, it was predominantly females, and usually just someone who's a widow that would be residing there. So that must be fun. That must be
a lot of
fun.
And also I think it's nice to see that people a different take on things now. People are looking at making a change as like a new chapter in life. It's not that I can't stay at home any longer.
It's a new beginning. It's not an
end.
Look
at it. It's a little positive take on it. That I don't think people knew a lot about assisted living or memory care. They knew nursing homes, and they knew hospitals, and they knew their home. They didn't really know what assisted living was. So I had no idea what I was getting into. So when I move in and I find that I still have privacy, but help is only a call bell away. I still can bring my own furniture, and I can bring my dog and my cat and all those things. It's like, what was I fighting? What was I fighting this for?
I mean, the animals is it was such a surprise to me when you could see that there's, which makes perfect sense, a little sign on the door, because you don't want to let them out. So it's a little like kind of warning that there's an animal residing in there. But animals are such a big part of helping people feel good and loved and wonderful, no matter how old you are.
And it's a big change. If I'm a pet person, like you're a pet person, if I had to say goodbye to someone and maybe make a huge lifestyle change, you're setting me up to fail, I think.
No, and a lot of times people will choose the welfare of their animal before themselves. So
my kids are convinced I like my dogs better than them, so I hear you.
I guess the kids and the animals kind of could be interchangeable, but yes, usually one or the other or both are placed before before people do. So it's a wonderful
consistency. If you're a person who I love a bath at night. And that's kind of my relaxing time and part of my routine. And I would still want to do that if I make a change. So we look at like people's lifestyles and their habits and try to incorporate that as much as we can when they transition in. So there's as few changes as possible, and look at healthy things that what still is right for you, what still works for you, and keep as much of that as we can.
Well, and I think that's part of the uniqueness and having something that is small. It's almost like a boutique. Like, how you have boutique hotels. You have these things. It's very much like a boutique type of assisted living
with long-term staff. So you're not.
So tell us about that too, because I know that there's people that have been there a very long time, very committed. So tell us a little bit more about that.
The nurse, one of the state requirements is that you have someone that runs your memory care unit. It doesn't need to be a nurse. Ours is an RN. So you have a clinical capability that maybe other places don't have, or a clinical eye that she brings to the table.
Sure.
And she's been there literally forever. So she's part of the training of all residents, because really, we're all dealing with folks with memory loss, even though you might not be in a memory care unit. In some of the independent and assisted, we sure have folks that have some memory loss, but they're still safe and appropriate. So she helps train the staff that way. Our resident care director is another RN when you don't need to be an RN necessarily. But a lot of the line staff have been there forever, will not go anywhere. They are happy as can be and very committed. But it's so nice that when a new person comes in, it's just one new person coming in. Yeah, it changes the dynamic of activities with that new personality, but the staff kind of stays consistent. And it's always a little bit of a wave. Of course, there's a new person here or there on staff, but very rarely.
And when you mentioned the staff, I feel like I was there one time with you visiting, and we came upon someone who had started there in high school. Or there were two, am I correct? So there were two people that started there, working there in high school. As either a nursing assistant or something along those lines, or housekeeping or whatnot. Tell us about that. How they've moved up.
I can tell you.
Well, and it's one of the department
heads. I was going to say, who I was just speaking of. She started off as a certified nursing assistant and was there for quite some time. Became a wellness nurse, and now is our resident care director. So the people, we have a lot of long-term residents and we have a lot of long-term staff. So it really feels like family.
I think that's such a great story.
Such a comfort level.
To be the person that now her main role is to oversee the residents' care. And that's where she started.
Such a pivotal role too, because everybody our average age is probably 86, 87, something like that. Not to say that because you're 86 or 87 you have ailments or something, but there may be some complications or compromises, and she just gets to know every resident so well. But on top of that, the family brings such a dynamic and such an insight to especially someone who's moving in new. But through the changes that may happen, we keep the families looped in on all of that also. There's just not a lot of surprises. There's usually more of a partnership.
So Kathi, tell me what the process is. So we're talking about RiverCourt. Someone's going to be watching this and they're going to say, oh, I haven't heard of that, or oh, I should really check that out. Go online, do some research, to get some information. Then, what is the process then, from start to finish in terms of, moving in? So tell us about that.
Best advice is to walk in the door. I could tell you a million things, and online shows you some great pictures.
So give you a call and set something up.
To me, I think family members and seniors should look at a couple places, I'll be honest.
I do too.
Some people come to us and fall in love, and I don't say, no, we won't take you, but I think as a general rule, it's a smart idea to look at a couple places. I think it helps you with your feeling of, I've done the right thing, I've done my due diligence, I've made a good decision. But come and taste that building. I don't say tour, I say experience. Come in and have a meal, stick around for an activity. We usually have someone come and sit with a couple residents, so it's not me, it's a couple residents talking to a daughter.
Oh, and people are usually very free to tell you what they think, good,
especially
bad,
in the dining room where they have lots of opinions. So we're all kind of very transparent about it. This is who we are. This is meet our residents, meet our daughters. Do you want to talk to some family members offline without us around? We have some families that are happy to chat with you, kind of tell you about their experiences. But I say come in and experience a building or two. Generally, there's some assessment process. We can sometimes do both at the same time. Most people tour a couple times.
What are you typically assessing when someone gets to that point with you? What are you usually looking for?
Mental status.
Okay.
Because there's 3 levels in the building. Where is probably the best fit for that particular person? Sometimes we see things that other people don't see.
That's great to know, because a lot of people feel like they have to figure it out, and that's not their area of expertise. They have to figure it out before they go to you.
Yeah.
So they don't have to.
And in partnership with us. So usually my counterpart and I, as we talk to families or tour folks around, we show you the whole building. And then as the family sits with the nurses and the assessment process begins, that's where as a team we kind of figure out what's probably the best fit for a person. A lot of times you're pleasantly surprised, because they might be struggling at home, but we know once the supportive services are in place and they're not trying to cook and they're not trying to remember if they took their medication, they'll be fine in assisted. They don't necessarily need memory care.
They actually might feel more equipped equipped to be more independent with just a little bit of extra support
Exactly, exactly.
Okay.
So you do some assessment process, partnership with families. We certainly keep the resident involved in all of that as much as appropriate or much as the family wants. We try to look at bringing things from home ahead of time, so when someone comes, it's not so scary. They see the comforts of pictures and comforters. The first couple days usually is just about making that resident feel at home. Paperwork's already done, assessments already done. We're just kind of getting her acclimated to the building and where her friends are. We usually do an ambassador program where we hook a new resident up with an existing resident.
I like that.
So they can kind of, I'm going to happy hour, come
Like
on with me.
a mentor, just a built-in
Yeah, it's time for dinner,
automatic
come
friend.
with me. It's coming from a friend rather than a staff member.
Right, right, because they'll really give you the lowdown.
Oh, you got that right. Yeah.
in many ways. So, when I look at all these different levels of care, and you see that it's right down the street, what would you say if you had to describe it in a few words? What would you say would best describe, just overall what RiverCourt Residences can offer people?
I think peace of mind for the resident and for the family member. I think it's surprising the amount of independence someone can have, even in a memory care community, that they're still making decisions and there's still a lot of dignity. I think that our connection to the community is important, that just because you made a move from home to RiverCourt doesn't mean that you've left all that you know and all that you love. But I think we're a nice, pleasant surprise for a lot of people. And I think people are surprised by how much we can do as a community. It's not, there's a lot of clinical components to assisted living, things that we're allowed to do, or services that we can put in place with outside agencies. So the goal of someone who moves into RiverCourt is that's the last decision, hopefully.
Right.
Because it's a tough enough
And
decision.
that's their home.
Yeah,
That's where they want to be.
And then going forward, we can pretty much take care of things from there with partners in the community like yourself. But really that should be, because it's difficult enough to make that one decision. Hopefully there's not another one down the road for
right. And that's
a
what
move
makes
out.
it nice that you have all those different levels of
Exactly.
care.
Yep.
Because it is a familiar place and
Familiar staff
right.
too. Yeah.
And I would imagine over the course of 15 years that there have been people that have gone from independent through the different levels and maybe been to
Most
to
definitely.
memory.
Yeah, most
but
definitely.
how nice that it was the same the same place and the same home for them.
And the folks on memory care, we try to have them integrate into the other part of the building also, so it's not what's behind that door over there. There's a lot of activities and events and musicians and entertainments and picnics where we all come together. Because you did probably know some people on the other side as you transition.
And those friendships should not need to. Those friendships should still flow.
And those seniors don't see the memory care loss. They just see their friend.
The friend.
Yeah, so
Exactly.
it's nice to still say who you always were.
Right. Well, RiverCourt Residences is a really special place.
Thank
It
you.
is. And I think I encourage people in the community to look at it as a really wonderful option and to look you up, Kathi, and see if...
Just do some homework.
Yeah, do some homework. But thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me. It was a blast.
All right. Thanks.